Jamie, let's pop off right now. We got to get started.
We got to go.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's get the people in the chat. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hit and Hustle from IrishSportsDaily.com. I am your host, Greg Flamong, and with me, as always, is Jamie Ueyama, Mr. Jamie University. It is Tuesday, August 31st, ahead of Notre Dame's home opener against Tennessee State. The Eddie George fighting Tennessee State. Are they the Tigers? I think they're the Tigers. A lot of Tigers out there. So that's who Notre Dame's opponent's going to be for the home opener. So we are going to be talking about that for a little bit. Jamie and I were talking before the show. This could be a massive blowout. So we're going to get into that. We're going to get into what Notre Dame can kind of glean from this game, what they can take out of it for, their players and their backups and all that sort of thing. And then we'll talk about questions that come in the comments and, the opening weekend of college football. We can touch on that as well. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. As always, if this is your first time catching our show and you like what you hear, please hit the like, please hit subscribe, and please hit the notification bell so you know when we're going live. Links to our podcast are in the description below. That is chugging along very nicely. And we thank everyone for their listenership and their viewership and everything. And really means a lot. This really makes this a fun little endeavor that we're on here. And before we get started, Jamie, we got to talk about ESQ Clothing, sponsor, one of the sponsors of our show. ESQ, founded by Notre Dame alum Ga Wang. And if you're looking to upgrade your wardrobe, Jamie, ESQ is the way to go. And especially with their bamboo dress shirt. It's crafted from high quality bamboo fabric. It's the softest and most comfortable shirt you'll ever put on. More sustainable than cotton. Feels cooler. Odor and wrinkle resistant. Even machine washable. Huge selling point. Don't have to spend money on dry cleaning. So you've seen ESQ's one-piece collared dress, bamboo dress shirt on every photo of Marcus Freeman. Press conferences, recruiting visits, visits on ESPN, all those things. You've seen it on Sam Hartman as well. And it's a perfect shirt for a business meeting or heading for a night out. So hit up esqclothing.com and upgrade your shirt game, Jamie. Michael Parks is here. I feel like it's been a bit since Michael Parks has been on the show with the Go Irish and the big things. So Jamie, home opener, big weekend of college football. We've got games tonight. Before we get into Notre Dame, what are you most looking forward to? What do you want to watch this weekend?
Ohio State, Indiana, obviously, because you just want to see Ohio State
opponents.
So certainly you want to see what they look at like a quarterback. They are 4 touchdown favorites in that game, so that should be a game where I would expect that Ohio State's going to take care of business and beat the snot out of Indiana. But you still want to see them and see what they look like. And really, this is like Ohio State's toughest game before they play Notre Dame. They don't have a schedule quite like that's very tough. It's similar to Notre Dame's, right? Where they don't really have, and they NC State obviously is a tougher opponent than Indiana too, right? So it's a little bit different. I think that I just like the full Saturday football. This is it's a pretty good Thursday slate. Like there's some good games tonight. Like I'm disappointed that Utah doesn't have like their like Cam Rising isn't going to.
They don't have Thick Boy in this game.
Boy 7. He's not going to play in this game, and their really good tight end Keith which I believe that's how you spell it. It's like a Kuithe. He's a stud. He's actually was like the guy who was considered better than Dalton Kincaid before he got hurt. So he's a very, very good player. So I have no idea what to expect from Florida this year, but Utah, normally I would say like, man, I would have taken, if I knew Rising and Keith are going to play in that game, I would have taken Utah and the points for sure. Like I would have just absolutely taken that. But I don't think that it's like one of those stay away kind of deals. Yeah, just like the full Saturday. There's not like there's some good matchups, but it's not like crazy, right? And then obviously like Sunday you got LSU Florida State. That's something I'm looking forward to. So yeah, I mean it'll be good, man. College football's back. Like official week 1. Love it.
Yeah, I mean this is what it is, right? You get the full slate of games. Jacob Paulus has 2 TVs set up outside with a fire for the games tonight. He's ready to go.
Love it.
That's a throwback right there, man. I did shoot that was in my my single days, pre-children, pre all that stuff. That was that was the setup, man. It was a big deal. Rob Wozniak says, I'm interested to see how many teams have procedure penalties in their first game. It's always a feature in the opening weekend. Michael Park says Graham Hurts. That's interesting. I mean, Florida's going for it. We'll see, right? I mean, maybe it was a Wisconsin thing. It was a Wisconsin problem. I think a lot of people were.
He was bad at Wisconsin.
He was bad at Wisconsin. I think a lot of people were excited about him in high school. I was excited.
He's got good tools.
Yeah, I thought he threw a great ball. I think in the Under Armour, one of the All-Star games. I don't remember if it was Under Armour or if it was the Army game, but he looked good in that one. So that'll be interesting to see. EK come out firing. I think Tennessee State plays better than Navy did. Don't underestimate the HBCUs. I think there are some HBCU programs that could have given Notre Dame a game. I don't know if Tennessee State's the team though, Jamie. I mean, we could get into that now. What do you you've obviously looked at Tennessee State. You've looked at what they've done. What do you think about them coming into this game?
I mean, I'm sure they're going to come out and compete hard, right? Like
sure.
I don't doubt that, but I look at them. Obviously, they were 4-7 last year. They lost to a D2 program at home, so not great, right there.
Not good.
They played Jackson State last year, which was Deion Sanders' program, which obviously had, they were very successful. I believe they won like 11 or 12 games. They lost 16-3 to them. They played Middle Tennessee State last year, which was the lone FBS program. They got blown out 49-6. I mean, Middle Tennessee State is not Notre Dame. So
I mean, it was 49-0, like early third.
Yeah.
It's 42-0 at halftime.
And I mean, I do think that they've actually picked up some transfers. I think they're going to be competitive in like their conference, the Big South, Ohio Valley Association, whatever conglomerate kind of thing that they've done, because they picked up some good transfers. Like I think Terrell Allen is he's a guy from Austin Peay, and Jalen Bell's another defensive lineman from Mississippi Valley State, and those guys are good players at that level.
Yeah.
But they're both like 6 feet, 280 types, and like those aren't guys that match up well. Like they might flash a little bit. They got a couple good linebackers. The DBs, they got some DBs who can play. I just watched them last year, and I don't think they got the team speed to hang with Notre Dame. So I think that's going to be a problem. And then on offensively, like their line stunk last year. They lose 4 starters. I mean, how much better are they going to be? Certainly not better than any line Notre Dame sees this year. So I think Notre Dame's going to go off and get a ton of pressure. Their quarterback, Draylen Ellis, was brutal against the blitz last year. He only, he averaged 4.9 yards per attempt and only 47 and complete only 47.9% of his passes on against the blitz. And non-screen passes, he was under a 50% completion percentage. Just overall. That's, and not versus blitz. Like that is bad. So I just don't see them their quarterback is, as EK said, their quarterback is mobile. So that's good because it's like, you get a chance to play against a guy who's will run, and it's good practice for Notre Dame, but he's not a scrambler, like, or at least wasn't. And they don't want that guy running for his life the whole game because
Yeah.
that guy's got to play the season, right? And you don't want to get that guy just smoked in this game. So I don't know, like on paper and from what I saw, like there's no reason why this game should be close at halftime, and it should be, the second half, it should be mostly 2s and 3s.
Yeah. Jay Lehman asked, does Tennessee State score? In my prediction, I gave them 3.
I gave them 3 as well.
I gave them 3 just because I don't know.
Just,
it's hard to predict.
You can like fluke your way into whatever, right? Like it doesn't. So also too, like all it takes is like, first of all, we're thinking about it, and so Notre Dame only had to cover 1 kick in the game. So all of a sudden they get a good kick return, they get into field goal range and whatever, they can go 3 and out and have a chance to kick a field goal, right? Or something happens, a tipped ball, they get an interception or something like that, or someone they got players on defense, they make a play, they produce a turnover, like that kind of stuff happens. These are these guys are competing too, and all of a sudden they're in scoring territory, right? Like that could happen. There's all these scenarios that could happen where it's like, oh man, like all of a sudden it's like 14-7 Notre Dame. Like what's going on here? Why did they even score? Like that could happen.
Yeah.
But it's like a lot of stuff kind of has to go their way for it to happen. It's just they can't match up. So Bill Connolly, he has a combined FCS and FBS rankings, and they are 213. So the next closest Notre Dame opponent this year is Central Michigan, which is 133. So, yeah. I mean, just on paper, like there are like, I think like one of the Dakota schools is like 80th or something. You know what I mean? So it's not like there's some FCS schools that Notre Dame could have played there. It was like, oh man, like this is a team that, they could catch you, right? But this isn't it.
EK Grambling State alum, good for you. Congratulations. Seriously. That's cool. EK says Great House blows up Saturday. So I think he could. The thing with the line disparity is it's hard for me. I don't know how much Notre Dame's going to throw in this game. Do they need, do they need to throw? How many third downs are they going to be in? Like that sort of thing. Like I don't. They could, like, I could see. I bet you Estime doesn't have great numbers. Like I could see. I could see Jadarian Price getting a lot of work. I think Jeremiah Love could get a lot of work in this game. Jabron Payne, like those guys, because if you can just run it, why would you not just run it? Like you can just do 2 tight ends. They played a lot more 2 tight ends in the opener than I ever anticipated. That was probably the shocking thing. The tight ends had more snaps than any wide receiver. I think Jaden Thomas had, I think, 37 snaps, and Evans had 50, and Stays had 39. So the tight ends played more than any other wide receivers. That really surprised me. I did not think the second tight end would have more snaps than certainly Jaden Thomas. Now it's a little bit different because Notre Dame doesn't have a stable of tight ends the way that they do at wide receiver. So they're going to like rotate guys a lot more at wide receiver than they are.
When Raridan's back, I expect they'll kind of mix it up a little bit more, I think.
Right. So yeah, Jay Lehman says, I'd like to see them try to get Tobias some catches in this game. For sure. I mean, like they tried to get him catches in the first game, right? Like I just, he's a starting wide receiver. He's going to have opportunities. It's kind of like I said in the first show. Like I don't think they need to like manufacture ways for him to touch the ball. Like I don't think the team really cares about what the fan media narrative is surrounding him. Because the other part is like everyone wants to bias to, do numbers and contribute and that sort of thing. They also didn't throw the ball at tight ends, and they could have, right? I think some of these are just I don't want to say natural products of the thing, but it's not like they didn't have the tight ends out in routes. It's not like they didn't have them as options. It's just that like there were a couple plays where Notre Dame did some short stuff and Navy's not covering anybody. And so you throw it to one person. Like there was one play, it's like he happened to throw it to Salerno. If he looked right, he could have thrown to Mitchell Evans. There was another play where it's like if he looked his way, he could have thrown it to Holden Stays. Ended up throwing to someone else who was wide open. So like to me, I don't know that they're needing to get him involved. He starts, and if you start like you expect your starting receiver to contribute at some point, they're going to put him out there and they're going to, he's going to have opportunities. Like to me, it's more like, do you want to try to get Rico Flores involved? Because he didn't really do much in the opener. Like, do you want to try to get his feet wet? Braylon James, someone like that. Like, do you want Braylon James to get in there and get his feet wet? Like, that's something that I'm kind of more interested in terms of like trying to get guys the ball. And that kind of goes into, I guess, I think what everyone's kind of thinking about in this game is what do you want to see from the backups? Like, when do you want them? I feel like we assume that Steve Angeli is going to get in this game. Do you want them to wait till the second half? Do you, if it's 21-0 in the first quarter, like, will you insert Steve Angeli at that point? And if you do, like, do you ever bring back Sam Hartman? Like, how much do you want Kenny Minchie to play in this game, right? Like, things like that. Those are the questions that I have. And what do you think the balance is, Jamie? Because you don't want the starters, the main guys, because the other part is Notre Dame didn't play a lot of snaps on offense in the opener. Do you only want those guys to get 20, 25 snaps in this game? Like, is that beneficial to them? Like, how do you see Notre Dame kind of juggling the backups versus starters and their timing and their reps and that sort of thing?
I mean, I think it all depends on the score of the game and where they're at. But I just think that I don't think you can plan to be like, oh, well, Angeli's going to get in the second quarter here. Like, I think you just got to play, you just play it like it's a normal game. And if you're doing that too, you're just having zero respect for Tennessee State period. And then that's how all of a sudden you're like, why isn't Notre Dame winning by 30 here? And you're like, well, they didn't focus. They told the guys that, okay, Angeli, you're going in the second quarter. So then the guys treat it like it's not like a game, right? They treat it like it's a practice. And that's not what you want to have. And the other thing is that, like, it's like people complain that Steve Angeli only got 6 snaps in against Navy. And fine, like, you'd love to see him get more snaps than that, but they only had 57 snaps, period.
Yeah.
So you got to have, like, even though they scored and they're successful, like, these guys need reps because they're going to have to play like 70 snaps against NC State, right? Like, everything has to be in mind of like getting ready for what they're doing. So even if they play like the starters have to play at least half the game. Like if, like, I don't care what the score is, right? Like, they have to play at least half the game. Or else you're kind of not giving them enough reps that they need, right? Like, these guys still need to work on, like Pat Coogan and Rocco Spindler have not played a lot of football. And I understand they looked like pretty good in the first game, but like, they weren't perfect. They had bad reps and stuff too. They didn't grade out 100%, or anything close to it. So these guys have to still get better. They have to improve. And like, you need to work on things. You need to get better. You need to rep it. You need to, like, you're going to see like pressures in this game that, that's how, if you treat it like, Notre Dame treated Ball State in 2018, that's all of a sudden it's like, man, this team has no business being in the game. That's how they stay in the game, right? That's how all of a sudden you're like, man, it's the fourth quarter and we haven't got our starters out yet. Like, you just don't want to be in that situation. They got to come out and play like, hey, we got to just smoke these guys and just come out and play and have as many of the starters in as possible until it's time. And then when it's time, work them all in, right? And I think if they treat it like that, then you are going to get a ton of reps for the twos and the threes in the third and fourth quarter. And you don't have to worry about that. And plus, even if you look at that Navy game too, like they worked in a lot of guys, especially at the skill positions, right? Like they worked in all five backs, right? They worked in multiple receivers, right? Like worry about getting guys like Braylon James and all these other guys, because I call this is like a 4-game rule game, right? So it's the guys who aren't who are probably going to redshirt. This is the game that you are probably going to get time in, like the end of the Boston College game last year. But those guys can only go in when it's time, because you got to remember most of those guys have been working with the scout team. They're not working with the regular offense. So if all of a sudden you put them in a situation, you're not helping them. You're kind of putting them in a situation to kind of fail, and all of a sudden some guy makes a screw up, blows a block or whatever, and then all of a sudden your quarterback's getting killed or something. Like you just don't want that.
Yeah. And that's nice too, like it being in the home opener, like when a bunch of people are going to play, because I just think of families of players. Like everyone wants to go to the home opener, right? Like your son is the freshman, right? Like your son is Notre Dame football player. Let's go to the game. And it's like there's a good chance that they're going to get in the game, right? So that's cool. That's very cool to see. And that'll be, kind of a side benefit to the situation. Just a couple of things. Marcus Freeman is having his press conference right now. Not a press conference, but he's on Zoom talking to reporters. And Andrew Mentok reported that Marcus Freeman said Eli Raridan's not cleared yet. She's still got the ACL. I guess Marcus Freeman alluded to there's going to be some like new formations and that sort of things. The lack of tight ends was kind of game specific. There was things that Navy was doing. Notre Dame had tight ends on the field in blocking roles and not necessarily pass receiving roles. So we could see more of them. He also noted that Tobias Merriweather, they liked a lot of things that he did on tape that just didn't show up in the stat sheet. That was another thing that I kind of talked about on Tuesday, just like there's opportunities there that have to be capitalized on in future games, right? Like, and I think that in my rant or whatever you want to call it, like I don't want people to get it twisted. You can't assume. I can't assume if they throw it to him, he's obviously going to catch it, right? You mean think if he's open, you'll probably catch the ball. Like, and it's funny because like the first opportunity he had in a game, he runs a post against Stanford and he comes down with it and it's a touchdown, right? Like that looks good. And now it's like, can he do anything right? Like it's funny how that kind of switched. But look, he's got to, as just any receiver, right? Anyone. I mean, Jaden Greyhouse, he got opportunities, caught the ball, right? He very easily could have not made the catch on the first one. That was not an easy catch to make, and he made the play, right? And so, look, if you're out there, you got to make those plays, and if you don't, then they'll put in someone else. I just think that the opportunities are going to be there. It's not something that I'm concerned about at this point. I didn't see anything in the game that made me think like, oh, he's not ready to go. So that's just kind of how that is. Defensively, Jamie, I think we're going to see a lot of people. I mean, we saw a lot of people in the opener. I'm excited to see the freshmen. I think Drake Bowen and Jaden Osbury are going to be I think they're going to be activated in this one. I think they're going to have they're going to have a nice little role. They're going to get in the game. Anyone else that you want to see more snaps from? Obviously, Donovan Heinisch is going to have an opportunity with Gabriel Rubio out for a couple of weeks with the knee. Anyone else that you're looking forward to on defense get more snaps?
I think I'm not even really like I'm looking forward to anyone specifically. I'm just looking forward to see Notre Dame play the regular defense because obviously this is the first opportunity they're going to get to do so. Like I want to see Ben Morrison because Ben Morrison didn't play that much in against Navy, right? Like and Ben Morrison didn't get to do everything that he's best at, right? So I want to see all of these guys play and have like their regular roles, and like it's like in a lot of ways, it's like game one for the defense, because you're doing something that you didn't do previously. So you get into their defense, you got to get reps, you got to you got to work pass rush that they didn't do before, right? You're playing against a regular offense, like they run a spread offense, like you're doing all of that kind of stuff. You're going to see nickel right in this game. Probably going to see like a little bit of that, um, spear, right? That sub package defense, right? With the three safeties, like you're gonna see a little bit of that probably in this game. I mean, maybe they'll save it for NC State. I don't know, right? But like it's you're going to see more of the guys in the roles that they're going to play all year, and that's what I'm looking most forward to.
Yeah, like Thomas Harper, right? Like he just wasn't
Yeah.
a huge part of the game at all. For
Right.
reasons you
Yeah.
understand, right? He's never played the option. He's never played Navy. Other players have, so you activate those guys and you get them going. I was surprised though that he wasn't like the role that DJ Brown was playing. Like that seemed like because they were putting him they were putting DJ Brown at like corner, and like that's a new thing. Like he's never played that position before. Like I would think that if you have your nickel, he's going to be covering people in the slot. Like put him out there on a wing back, like that would be a better, like on paper, that's a better role for Thomas Harper than it is DJ Brown. But obviously they did what they did, and it worked out for Notre Dame. So it's not like a criticism, but it's just something that's interesting to me. Like he was penciled in as my mind as like a very key player for Notre Dame, and in the opener he wasn't. Like it's kind of hard for me to see like if the Navy game had taken place in game 8 rather than game 1, and the team is Thomas Harper is getting 40 snaps a game as the nickel. Like, is he really are they just gonna sit him down for the Navy game? Like that seems like it wouldn't have happened, but it did. So I'm just curious to see what that rotation looks like. And then just more of like like you said, the safeties. Like I want to see those guys, how they compete, how they play. And more of the Josh Burnhams of the world. I'm interested in Junior Tuihalamaka. Like he was another guy where he played against Navy last year. Not a ton of snaps in this one. I want to say Josh Burnham might have had more snaps than him. I could be wrong about that. It was definitely similar snaps.
Yeah, it was around the same, but Pick Burnham maybe played a few more.
A couple more, yeah. So that's interesting to me. Like if you're going to have Jordan Botelho, who I think I thought he played well against the run on Saturday. You can check me on that. Yeah, I thought he did. And Junior is like the run defender end, and that's not like, to me, I would not want to be pigeonholed as that guy, as the Viper, because you don't play a ton of run heavy teams. And I feel like if you are like, I feel like he doesn't have the highest ceiling as a pass rusher. And so
Botelho, is that you're saying he doesn't?
No, I'm talking about Junior.
Okay.
Tuihalamaka, not Botelho. Botelho's the opposite. No, yeah. I'm saying Junior doesn't have that upside as a pass rusher. And so you can always,
or we haven't seen it. We haven't
seen it, but I just feel like just from his physical dimensions, right?
Yeah.
Like in his skill set.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. So especially as compared to Botelho and Burnham, I feel like Burnham can always get better against the run, but your physical ability is your physical ability. Like if Burnham continues to ascend as a run defender, obviously the pass rushing skill set is there. Where does that leave Junior? Like that's something that I'm kind of looking at there.
Yeah.
I
know that.
Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt, but I know the staff really likes Junior.
Yeah.
They really
no,
like
for sure.
him.
That's another part. They've always liked him.
They really like him. And he's like a really like a guy who could be like a future captain. Like they really think that much of him, especially like his work ethic, his toughness, all that kind of stuff, his intelligence. Like They really, really like him. Yeah, to me, that is going to be the most interesting thing because I haven't really. The only way I've seen him win as a pass rusher, he's very limited, right? With what we've seen from him, is like working an inside move, and it's like,
Mhm.
okay, well, if they don't open up the gate, then how are you going to win,
Right.
right? So that's what I'm looking, and then also too, like this is kind of a weird game too because I don't think their offensive tackles are going to be that good. So it's like you can win in this game by like put it this way. Are these guys, is their offensive line better than Notre Dame's second team offensive line? I would say no.
Right.
So, and I saw like Notre Dame's twos dominate the second team offensive line in
Notre
camp.
Dame's twos on defensive line.
Yes.
Twos against
So,
twos was an advantage for the defense.
And so where does that, so I think this game is one of these games where it's like, you can't really, you got to be careful about what you get hyped about, whatever. I think you always want to see people make plays. I always look at these games as like you're playing teams that you know that you're better than. It's about confidence building
For sure.
rather than deciding like this guy's going to do this, right? Because I want to see, frankly, with all of these guys, right? Like, Josh Burnham, had the nice sack in the first game, played pretty well against Ryan. Okay, that's great. Well, let's see when they play NC State. And like, who's going to be the guy who's going to be one of these young guys who makes a play against Ohio State? And is there going to be someone that you're like, oh wow, that to me is what all these games are about, is like getting to that point where you're like, all of a sudden, Christian Gray, obviously got just a little bit of snaps in the Navy game. Well, is all of a sudden Christian Gray, by the time you get to game 5 of Ohio State, you're like, oh, Christian Gray made the jump. And he's like, there. He might be Notre Dame's third best corner or whatever, right? Like, or, something like that. Or like Jaden Mickey showed up with like, I know it's just a couple really nice tackles against Navy, but I'm like, that's a good confidence build. Like, I want to see these guys build up to that, to the point where they're playing Ohio State and they're in those situations, and it's like, that's when it's like, oh, this is where Notre Dame is for real, because they have these other guys who aren't even the starters who are making plays.
Yeah. So you want to see Christian Gray, make a jump. You want to see Jaden Mickey make a jump. I think Ramon Henderson as well. Like guys like that, you want to see them make a jump up in their play. And if you've got a growing business, Jamie, and you want to make a jump in your marketing game, in your social media game, you're going to want to go over to VSR Media, which is founded by Notre Dame football pregame host and Emmy award-winning anchor Fahid Saad-Razadeh. VSR Media provides professional and cinematic video and photo. Whether you're looking for a collegiate or pro-level highlight reel, have a personal story to tell, or aiming to diversify and grow your business, VSR Media specializes in short and long-form video storytelling, social media management, and website design. VSR Media also captures professional headshots, senior, and sports photos. So contact them at vsrmediacompany.com. Mention Irish Sports Daily and receive 20% off your first project. Visit them online or give them a call at 574-800-9106. All right, let's wade into a discussion that's been going on in the chat. Who does JD Price remind you of, Jamie? Who does he remind you?
Definitely not Josh Adams.
Okay.
I see that. I don't think they're very similar at all, actually.
Okay.
I mean, they're just body types. I think, sorry, I'm looking at it. Carmel kind of mentioned too, like Adams, it was a build up speed guy.
Yeah.
He's a long speed guy, which was perfect for that chip long. Like they were like opening things up, like spreading out and inside running game and hitting it, and the like pin and pulls, and then all of a sudden hitting it, getting the lane, and then going right. Like that was perfect for that. But Price is obviously tinier, just in terms of his overall build. Like Josh Adams, if you see him, if you just walked by him on the street, you would have thought he was a linebacker, probably, right? Like maybe even a defensive end. Like, I mean, a bit short for defensive end, but like he just had like a different kind of body type, right? Where Price is just a lot smaller, right? Like, I mean, he's a good size or whatever, but he's short. Like, he's sub 6 feet. And he's just, I think he's not regained all the twitch that he had, that he had prior to his Achilles, and hopefully you see more of that. But I think that he is, just more of like a one cut and go guy. I mean, I guess someone said Dexter Williams is there. He would be more Dexter Williams than
I was going to say it. I was like, please don't. This is mine.
Yeah.
He's Dexter. Yeah, for sure. He's Dexter. He might be like a better, he kind of almost, I mean, it's hard because of the Achilles. He might be like a rich man's Dexter, where it's like Dexter had, there needed to be a hole. Dexter, if there was a hole, he would hit it and that's it. I think JD Price could be, he could be better at creating space for himself. He could be better at reading plays, and being like more of a natural running back, right, than Dexter. But in terms of just like that one cut, like you said, like one cut and hit it, like him getting through that hole like that. Like how many times did we see Dexter get the ball and he just finds the space and then boom, like shot out of a cannon.
Burst, right? That's the thing with Dexter Williams, was burst, right?
Yeah.
And because he had that burst, like I actually don't think JD Price, like, I mean, healthy JD Price is probably, yes, faster in a 40-yard race than Dexter Williams. But like it's the burst. I mean, Dexter, I don't care. He ran like a 4.57 at the thing. I mean, he didn't play like he had ran a 4.5. He played a lot faster than that. And a lot of it was because he just had that like see the hole and go, and just was, he had that. And I think one of the things, but I mean, it's different because you're just like, there's different skill sets. I think Price is a really good receiver. Like that's the one thing too. Like before Price is done at Notre Dame, people are going to be like, oh, this he's like a weapon.
Yeah.
Like he's got a lot of skills as a receiver. And that's the one thing Dexter never really, he was just an unnatural receiver, right? Yeah. He was never a great receiver, never a good guy in the passing game. And where Price is going to develop into a weapon in the passing game. But just in terms of that, like initial, like, look at that touchdown, right? Just one quick cut, boom, gone, right? Like that's kind of what you see. And nobody's exactly alike, but that was just kind of like the guy in most recent memory that it makes.
Yeah, that's who he reminded me of. I think Jeremiah Love, I think he's closer to Josh Adams. I really like that the Ricky Waters thing. Joshua Voles from 1 Foot Down has been on this for months. And at first I was like, I don't know. And they gave him 12, or he got 12. And I was like, that's just funny. He's got those long legs, just like Waters did. And even like the running inside, like Ricky Waters wasn't a guy who was like trying to bounce everything. Like he would get in there. He would get in there and he would mix it up. And I think we really saw that in it was a 19-yard run. I think it was 21 yards. We saw that from Jeremiah.
21 yards. Yeah.
21 yards. Yeah. He definitely could have bounced it outside and he kept it inside. And I think that really kind of shows like he's embracing that running back kind of mentality, right? Like got through there, ran through a tackle. The guy's grabbing him by his legs and he's kind of, still churning his legs a little bit. So that was really nice to see. The pass block. You know what's interesting, Jamie? And you can back me up on this because this is my impression. And so you can check me if this is not correct. Notre Dame's running backs are very good, and I'm going back to last year. Like, they're very good at running the ball, pass game stuff. I feel like they've done a good job. I feel like the pass blocking is lacking, right? Logan Diggs was not a good pass blocker last year. I don't recall Audric Estime being a great pass blocker. I think Audric Estime, he had some moments, but it's like it's not one of those things where it's like,
Tyree was the best.
Tyree was the best. That's true. He definitely was, and that's a loss. Obviously, Kyron Williams, like you knew he was going to pick it up, right? You knew he knew what to do. He's going to stick his nose in there. I feel like Jeremiah Love missed one. He's a freshman, right? Like, that's not, people understand that sort of thing, right? Like, freshmen are going to blow assignments. I think Audric blew an assignment there on the second Graden House touchdown. That's my opinion. Obviously, I don't know the blocking assignment, but just look to me like that's a running back pickup. I just feel like that could stand to improve. And if there's anything that I would like to see come out of this game from them in the passing game, it's that. It's like, I want to see the assignments being correct on blitz pickup, especially for Devin Ford picked up a blitz on the first Great House touchdown. So that's a good job by him. But I want assignments correct, because look, regardless of the opponent, Tennessee State's going to send pressure, right?
Yeah.
They probably feel like they need to. You don't want Sam Hartman to sit back there and pick you apart. I want to see the pass pro. I want the assignments to look good. We saw too many busts in the first game. What do you think, Jamie?
Yeah, I think that's something I think that people kind of spoiled with Kyron Williams being good at it early. Like, usually when someone's in their second year, they're not like good at it. Well, here's the one thing. If you go back and watch the film, and I know people whatever, because he had that great game against Clemson where he was awesome. He really wasn't that good all year. Like, that was not the reflective of his whole year. His last year, he was great.
Yeah,
he was great. But that first year, it was up and down. Like, there was definitely some games where like he whiffed and he, didn't do well. Physicality obviously is not part of it, but it's just, that's just something with the game. There's a reason why, Devin Ford looks the best. It's like, this guy's been in college for, 4 years. So he's understands it, right? He's something that like he should be able to pick up, where usually for guys in their, first and second year on campus, that is still something that they haven't mastered. And Williams, whatever, go back and watch the tape. He did not master it. He had the one fantastic game against Clemson, enough that people were writing articles about it. But if you watch other games that year, he was not as good. But physical as all heck, but not like perfect in terms of what he was doing, in terms of like, knowing where blitz pickup was supposed to go and all that kind of stuff, right? So, yeah, that is definitely something that you want to do, especially for a guy like Jeremiah Love. And that's also why you want to have these games too, because if you're doing that and you're making mistakes, well, if you make that mistake against Ohio State, it is a sack, right? That's a sack. Hartman probably doesn't get the ball out, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe it ends up being a pick or something because he threw the ball and whatever.
Right.
So, and that's why you got to clean out as much of that stuff as you can now, because you want to be able to use Jeremiah Love in that Ohio State game, but he has to prove that he can play in all situations, right? Rajon said about Payne. That's the other thing. Jabron Payne is probably better than those other guys in pass pro, which, that lends to him playing more, right? So all that kind of stuff, it does matter. Like, and I know people, that was the one thing people were frustrated for years. Why isn't Dexter Williams getting more snaps? It was like, the guy is not great in pass pro. It took him like 4 years to get decent, right? So it's just different for different guys. And I think that's just kind of, where it's at. But I agree that should be a priority over the next few weeks.
I'm going to look up, I'm going to look at how many times Jabron Payne was actually in pass blocking. because I don't remember that happening in a ton. So let me just check it out here. Jabron Payne had one pass blocking opportunity in the game on Saturday. So that kind of remains to be seen. I think
He
how
was
good
very
he's
good in
been.
camp. He was very good in
Yeah,
camp.
yeah. So
So I'm
very good
sure
in
we'll
camp.
know.
So we haven't seen that. Maybe we'll see it more on Saturday. And I think the passing game too, like that's another one where opponent specific, like it's not opponent specific, right? Like you have to execute. You have to execute in the pass game against any team, right? Like you could, I mean, against air, like you could, if you're not sharp, like you're gonna miss balls, you're gonna miss just like Sam Hartman, like being late on the one play to Tobias. Um, just like stuff like that. If they're not sharp, then they won't complete. It's not like because if you're sloppy with the ball, if your timing's off, like I said, it doesn't really matter who the opponent is. Like you're gonna look not as good in the passing game against anyone. So that's something that I want to see. Like, can they continue the efficiency week to week? Like, are they gonna? It's like, oh, it was a bad route, bad timing. Was it a poor throw? Was it a poor catch? Like, did someone not squeeze the ball on a in route? On 2nd and 10 or something like that, right? Like that sort of thing. If they're sloppy, you don't want to be sloppy because it's like that leads to sloppiness kind of in other games when it's important, right? Like it's going to be more. You got to be on point against NC State. You got to be on point against Ohio State, right? And so you want to see it week to week because then it says, okay, we can kind of count on that when Notre Dame needs it in the bigger games. Because if you're inconsistent, well, then that breeds inconsistency, going forward, or at least it portends it, right? Like it's something that you could see going forward. Like, are they able to hit their deep passes, right? Or are there more complicated routes and that sort of thing? So that's something that I'm looking for in this game. Was there anything else, Jamie? Is there anything that we haven't talked about going into the game against Tennessee State?
No, I think we covered a lot of it. I mean, I think you want to see them play a clean game. You want to see them blow people out. You want to see it's about this is should be a confidence building game. That's
Yeah.
that's what it should be about everything. So that's why Merriweather just like even if it's just one catch, just getting a catch, making a play, and it's like okay, now you can build on that. You don't want to go into NC State where all of a sudden you're like, I mean, Tobias Merriweather hasn't had a catch yet. He hasn't. He hasn't done much. He didn't even get a catch against Tennessee. You don't want that to be the narrative. And anyone could say that, like, yeah, they don't listen to outside noise, whatever. But it's like the coaches want to feel good about like getting him the ball, right? So you want to build confidence from the coaches want to get confidence in people. The players want to have confidence in themselves. So it's like all of these things. It's just like everybody's got to eat. Everybody's got to eat, and that's what you want to see from the game. It's just a bunch of people making plays.
Right. And like you said, confidence, right? Because here's another thing that I didn't talk about on Tuesday when talking about Tobias. And it's that when that ball is coming, it looked to me like he wasn't sure how he wanted to catch it. And this is kind of something we talked about with Chris Tyree, like getting those reps with their little machine. What's that thing called? It's not a jugs.
Um,
It's like the Stinger or something. It's some sort of.
I can't remember. Whatever.
I
It's
can't remember. The robot throwing the ball, like it can like it doesn't just do straight ones. It can like throw
the
certain kind
one
of
that
routes.
Matt Freeman's getting a cut
Yeah,
from. He's always to mention it in his stories.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
no,
that thing.
uh, it's a thing where it allows them to catch like hundreds of balls in a day. Like
Yeah,
it's like
yeah,
one of those kind of things. Yeah.
yeah. And so when the ball's coming, it seemed like he
Seeker.
wasn't
The
sure
seeker.
how he
The
the
seeker.
what the
The
seeker.
seeker.
Perfect. Yeah. He wasn't sure how he wanted to catch it. In my opinion, just like from his body language, it's like, how do I want to grab this? Like, do I want to do this? Like, do I want to do this? Like, there's a lot of like confidence, like a confident player, when the ball's thrown, it's like, this is in their mind. They say, this is how I'm going to catch it. And so then it leads to more decisive, it leads to more decisive decisions by the player then, because it's like, okay, I know how I want to catch it. Now I want to know how to handle my body, right? And so I think that's there too. Like, that's what you need. Like, that's the confidence that I think Jamie's talking about. Getting in a game and having the ball come to you and being confident with it. Just like, again, this could be against air. It doesn't matter. It's like that's the sort of thing that needs to breed. And I know that he wants to make the play. He wants to, right? Like, he's very, cognizant of the fact that, like, he wants to make plays. He wants to be a playmaker. And so, hopefully those opportunities come. Like you said, if it doesn't come, the questions, and then it doesn't even matter from the media. Like, doesn't matter what we say. If you're a wideout who hasn't made the plays in the first 2 games, there's gonna be naturally questions. But like I said on Tuesday as well, Jaden Thomas, through the first 3 games of 2022, 1 catch for 8 yards, right? He stuck with it. And obviously he's Notre Dame's, number 1 receiver right now. So again, no matter what happens, I preach patience with everybody.
Just as Corey Flynn mentioned, Monarch is the company, but Seeker is the actual machine. So it's the Monarch Seeker. And I think it's like Monarch with no H, but whatever. Doesn't matter. Anyways, just to clarify, the machine is the Seeker.
The machine is the Seeker. All right. Yeah. And so Carmel Humphrey says, not all kids come in polished like a great house in Flores. The great house, like, that's the thing about him. He knows he wants to catch every single pass. He's like, I'll bet you he doesn't like drop a pass this year. He is such a good, like, he knows how to catch the ball. He made his whole like high school career catching passes against the top teams in Texas. Like, he is a guy who's like, doesn't have the speed. We had a long conversation this week with some people about, like, why isn't he ranked higher? And why isn't, the recruiting services, why don't they? And it's like, their services like to project an NFL. It doesn't say anything about what he's going to be as a college player. Like, Jaden Greathouse was kind of always, in my opinion, going to be a great college player because he knows how to play the position and he knows like all the little nuances. Like the first touchdown, breaks press right off the line of scrimmage. He knows the ball's coming. There's no safety in the middle of the field. Hartman knows it's going to him, puts it right in there. So, Ray, what do you think of this one, Jamie? Ray says Greathouse will be their number 1 receiver, 78 catches, 952 yards.
No,
what's
no, that's wrong. I don't think that. I think that's crazy. He's not going to have that kind of numbers. I mean, first of all, he had a big opening game, and he's going to be great. Like,
those are Michael Mayer numbers.
He might catch 40 passes, like that. That is something. But so he caught 3 in the first game, right? So he's catching 75 in the next 11 games. Like, that's a lot. Like, he's basically averaging like 7 catches a game, the rest of the thing. So that means he played like 8 plays in this game. Yes, he made the most of those plays, but settle it down. Just he's great. He's probably going to put up the best freshman numbers since Michael Floyd. Less than Michael Floyd, but it'll be the best since then. You know what I mean? Like, so the best since then was Kevin Stefferson in 2016. And I believe he had 25 catches, right? He's going to have more than 25 catches. That's definitely fair. I think that's going to happen. And then Notre Dame hasn't had another guy. They haven't had 2 freshman receivers with over 10 catches. And I think Flores is going to end up with over 10 catches. Like he'll probably, he could have 15, 20, whatever, right? Like maybe his role will grow as the season goes on. That's going to happen. Those guys are going to contribute a lot, but like 78 catches is like what Calvin Ridley did as a true freshman. And he was like 21 years old when he was a true freshman. I don't think those are some unreasonable expectations. Maybe as a sophomore, you might do that. But like, I mean, if he keeps doing this, he's going to gain more trust and he's going to get more and more. And then maybe it can keep growing from there. But still, 78 catches. I mean, I just want you to go back and look at Notre Dame's numbers. How many guys have had 78 catches in a season for Notre Dame? It's a short list. It's a very
I don't think they throw enough for that. Because they're going to throw to other guys, like how many because then how many catches would you have Jaden Thomas getting? You'd have to have him similar to that. They're just going to throw to too many people. So I think it's kind of the spirit of it from Ray is correct. Like, I think he's going to be a key player for them. It's just, it's always been like, you can throw him the ball and he'll catch it. Like that's, when you have a guy like that, like quarterbacks gravitate to that. They will find a way to get them the ball in games. So I think that's true. Hey, do you think Rico Flores is fast enough to be a field player?
Yeah, it can be a field. I mean, I don't think it doesn't necessarily have to be about just straight up being a burner there. I do think his best position is the slot, though. Like that,
yeah.
That's where his best position is. So I ultimately think what will happen is that Greathouse will eventually move to the boundary, and then they'll play Flores in the slot. I mean, Greathouse, they'll move all over. Like he's got,
yeah, for sure.
And Flores can move all over too. But I think Greathouse too. Like, I mean, that's part of the reason. Like this guy understands the position at that age, and you just don't get that many guys who can do that.
Yeah, Pops is here. Thanks for being here. EK, I put this up. All right, let's read it. Yep, speed is overrated. Getting open and catching the ball matters most. I don't think speed is overrated. Actually, I think it's properly rated. But I think just getting open and catching the ball is kind of underrated. I think that's how I would put it. It's like you can get on the field, and I would say it's underrated by like the services, not necessarily fans, but I think the services say that.
This is the other thing too. I think 24/7 is going to regret their ranking when it comes, not just based on how he does in college, because I think obviously he's going to be a very great player for Notre Dame in college. I think they're going to regret the ranking because he's going to be maybe not a first rounder, but he's going to be like a day 2 pick probably. And he won't be a burner, a guy who's going to run a great 40 or whatever, but like there's just a lot of guys, and kind of what, to that point about the speed part of it, like DeAndre Hopkins was like a 4.57 guy,
Yeah.
And that's, if you were going to say like, this is the kind of guy that Greathouse is like a DeAndre Hopkins type, where like Hopkins doesn't win by just like, man, this guy's just physically better than everyone else. It's like, no, it's like all these other pieces mashed together. That's what has made DeAndre Hopkins one of the best receivers in the NFL. So also too, just for reference, because of that's 78 catches. So Michael Floyd, 2010, right? Michael Floyd is his last 3 years, 93, 79, 100, right? So that's Michael Floyd territory. If he's so Will Fuller 2014, 76 catches, right? He had 60 something in 2015. He's not catching 78 catches. Like he has to get like 100, like at least 110 targets, basically. That's a lot of targets for anybody, right? Like, I don't even know what Mayer's targets were last year, but that's probably close to what Mayer's targets were. And
Yeah.
I mean, are they going to be forcing the ball into him that much? I mean, I don't think so. I mean, could he be the wide receiver 1 by the end of the year? I think that is actually an interesting argument.
It's possible.
That's
Yeah.
possible. But to put up those numbers, I mean, you basically have to be wide receiver 1 from the jump and just game after game, boom, like always producing every game. And that's a lot to ask that's a lot to ask for Jaden Thomas.
Yeah.
So it is definitely a lot to ask for a freshman.
Yeah. All right. We'll leave it there. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you like what you heard, you like what you saw, this is your first time listening, please subscribe to the show. Please hit the like button. Please hit the notification bell. Links to the podcast are in the description below. We will be back after the game on Saturday. We'll be probably 5 minutes after the game is over. We'll be here. We'll be live. Maybe Mike will be here. He might be transcribing for Matt, but we'll see. And then I'll be on the morning after recap on Sunday morning. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in one more time. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the games tonight. Enjoy the games over the weekend. And we will talk to you on Saturday.